Hey guys, this is San Reese from HeavyTek, and today we're going to be doing another cooler review, and this one is going to be slightly special. It's the ZALMAN CNPS20X, and that is a very, very long name for a cooler. So sit back, relax, and we're going to go into a semi-in-depth overview on this cooler. Okay guys, so if you don't know, ZALMAN has been around since the late 1990s, so they are no stranger to the air cooling game. They've been around for quite some time and have some of the most strange, unique designs of air coolers I've ever seen. So when they had released this cooler, which I believe it was earlier this month, sometime in May, that they released this one, and they released another cooler. I think it's a single blade design. I was actually quite surprised, and I wanted to jump on it right away. So the price of this cooler, if you don't know, is like $99. So it puts it in the same league as the Noctua NHD15S, and then as like the Assassin 3 from Gamerstorm. I think those are the other two big boy coolers that I can think off the top of my head that it kind of puts in the same category. But so far as this one right here, it's boasting some colorful technology, or a real in-depth review of this cooler right here. I'll go ahead and link the card for Gamers Nexus. They did a real big teardown and went, nitty-gritty like they always do on the pros and cons of this cooler. So today we're just going to go over like a kind of basic overview. I did run a benchmark on OCCT to see how it would do in a controlled environment. So that'll be a little bit later on, but first let's go over the basic specifications of the cooler. So from ZALMAN's own words, it's improved cooling performance by increasing the heat dissipation area 15% with 4D stereoscopic corrugated cooling fin. 350 individual airflow passages are formed to improve the straightness of the airflow. Application of the RDTH reverse direct touch heat pipe and IHD interactive heat pipe transfer design for excellent performance with minimum heat resistance. 140mm dual blade spider fans provide maximum cooling performance with unique RGB effect. Supports motherboard adjustable RGB sync, 5V and compatible with AIM-3, AIM-4, and it'll be compatible with most Intel platforms. That's a lot of words, and ZALMAN's marketing team definitely put, some thought into all those words describing what this cooler actually is. I don't think the basic person, or the layman's person that's buying this cooler, will have any idea what that is, but it's got a nice string of consonants and verbs that might make you want to buy this thing. Yeah, it's kind of over the top for me. Moving on, the application of the RDTH reverse direct touch heat pipe for excellent performance with minimum heat resistance, and the interactive heat pipe transfer design is optimized for the 20X's heat pipes and heat fin. With the cold plate and heat pipe design, it just kind of looks like it's like inverted. I don't know how truthful ZALMAN is to saying how much increased performance it is compared to what, but to me it looks like just any standard, cold plate design of any high-end air cooler. On a side note for the fins, they're pure copper, pure aluminum. It's 140mm long by 170mm wide by 165mm tall. So on average, if you have maybe a thinner case, you might have some clearance issues. If you're using any like mid to large ATX tower case, you shouldn't have a problem with this cooler. Also, you want to check your RAM clearance. Any low profile RAM should be fine. If you're using anything with like some tall heat spreaders, such as like Corsair Dominator Platinum RAM, probably run into some issues with fitment, and possibly with like any of the G.Skill Trident Z RAM, you might run into issues with that also. What ZALMAN is saying, like I was telling you, the maximum RAM height for single fan mode, so I guess if you're using single fan in the front, slots 1 and 2 is up to 47mm. Slot number 3, that's moving further away from the, or closer to the, that's further away from the CPU. There's no limit. Maximum RAM for dual fan mode is slot number 33. Slot number 3, you only get 33mm out of it. Moving on, It does have a fluid dynamic bearing on the fan, and probably one of the selling points that I noticed about this fan is how different it actually is. It's pretty cool. It comes with a RGB on the front that I personally think is worthless. Nothing against ZALMAN. I mean, it's a nice attempt, but they have like one bright LED in the center that's supposed to be diffused. It just looks like a giant stoplight, depending on the color you use. I didn't mess with any of the RGB settings because at first glance I could tell that it really wasn't doing its job. It's kind of an eyesore. I think the fan should have either been like no RGB at all, or maybe they should have like had a different housing altogether to try to maybe implement the lights. The fan itself is pretty nice. It has this weird impeller design where it's kind of like it has big fins on the outside with a smaller set of fins near the center of the cap of the fan. So it's definitely different. It's pretty quiet under idle and medium load, and wasn't that loud when the fans ramped up around full speed. The fans spin anywhere from about 800 to 1500 RPM, and like they said, it's running around 29 decibels plus or minus, and moves about 61 CFM of air. It's touted as a lifetime of 100,000 hours, so you know it should have some sort of longevity with it. But you know, moving to like the other aspects of the fan, it's pretty standard in a lot of aspects. But what I really like about the fan is the mounting mechanism for the fan to the cooler itself. It's pretty neat. You have these little metal tabs that you kind of hook in on the side of the fan, and then it just snaps right into the fins on the side, which is probably one of the most straightforward installations of a fan I've seen. It doesn't have those like tiny little clips that you kind of have to stretch and struggle with, and if you don't have any nails, it's going to be a little hard for you to get it off. So I think ZALMAN did a really good job with their implementation of the fan actually attaching to the cooler itself. So far the fan, it comes in two pieces for some strange reason. It has quite a bit of hardware, so you have to like assemble quite a few things with this cooler just to get it to the point to hook on. The attachment to the motherboard itself is a little reminiscent of Noctua's secure system. They'd probably be better off if they just like copied it, honestly, but it's not too bad. You are going to have to make sure that that maybe your graphics card is not installed already when you want to install this cooler. Where the screws are, where it connects to the plate itself, are I think a little close in, and there's really no way to get it done without like a long screwdriver. And speaking of tools, I don't believe this one came with any additional hardware to actually install it, which would have been nice for a cooler that's like $100. But you know, I think they're really trying to you know, kind of put their big boy pants on and compete. Moving on to the benchmarks, they actually did pretty decent. I never hit over 80 degrees Celsius with a small package data set. It ran for 5 minutes with 1 minute idles on the beginning and the end of the test. On the low end, when this cooler is idling, it does actually phenomenal. It was running around 31. At the lowest, on average about 32 to 34 degrees Celsius, which is more than sufficient for most applications nowadays. I did a run-of-the-mill with the 3600X with a 6-core 12-thread processor. So if you're using anything with more cores in it, say as, you know, like a 3800X or a 3900X or any of the Intel chips, maybe the 10900K, you're probably gonna see, you know, moderate temperatures, maybe an increase of about a couple of degrees Celsius on the high end if you're doing a whole lot of work with the CPU. But for day-to-day tasks, if you're just surfing the internet, like workloads, like it's going to be quiet, it's going to cool the chip, so you're not going to have really any issues out of it. If you're running anything with a whole lot of cores and you're doing a whole lot of work, you might start pushing or getting close to the thermal limit if you have set one. I wouldn't be surprised if it went over 80 degrees Celsius. It was right at the threshold around 79, and like I said, this is on a 6-core 12-thread processor. So if you're moving something with a little more cores, I wouldn't be surprised if you just like kind of like went over that threshold a little bit. They do allow you to adjust the fan and move it up and down. Personally, I think you run into different issues of maybe coming in contact with the side of your case, whether it's tempered glass or not. And then, you know, it not being actually over the cooling elements or the fins itself. So I think you might sacrifice some cooling ability on the cooler itself if you're adjusting those fans to make room for higher profile RAM. All in all, I think the cooler is a little bit gimmicky, but you know, I think that's part of its charm, how it's definitely gonna catch your eye and be something different that's not on the market currently today. You know, it's hard to escape the copycat syndrome that you kind of see in the CPU cooler market. You know, they don't, most manufacturers don't defer too much from proven designs or elements that you see from day to day. So to see something like this where ZALMAN's like taking a stab at being something different is definitely appreciated. I would love to see, you know, more aggressive or different fan designs. And I know there's only so much you can do with that, but ZALMAN is definitely on the right track with the CNPS20X. And I hope to God the next time they make one of these coolers that they use a shorter name. So my recommendation is, should you buy this cooler? Well, that depends. Of course, like with everything, there's a whole bunch of variables of what you need it for. If you kind of want to go high end and you want the ultimate like cooling ability, I would personally buy something else, maybe like the Noctua NHD15S, because it's just proven, it's quieter, it moves a lot more air, it's definitely premium for a reason, but there's nothing wrong with this. And the only reason I would say the Noctua over this one is my feeling it's superior, and it's like the same price. So, you know, you can get them, you can also get it in that ugly brown color, and also like the Chromax version, which is the all black. So I think if ZALMAN was kind of maybe like discount this cooler like maybe $10 to $15, it would actually have a nice sweet spot and be an alternative to something like the Assassin 3 or the Noctua NHD 15 cooler, because this one is trying to play in that league, but things with installation, the amount of assemblies required to actually put in this cooler, and the fact that it doesn't really come with any extra tools or goodies, it's kind of like, do I really want to pay $100 for that? So that's really just my main gripe for the cooler, is so much the price and the RGB. So if ZALMAN was to release another iteration of this cooler, they either revamp the fan and do something better with the RGB, or just toss it all together. I think the fan is more than capable without it, and is a solid performer for anything you needed to do. So if you're using anything less than, you know, 6 cores, then yeah, I mean, it's kind of like overkill. If you're using anything more than 6 cores, then it's gonna be a little bit of a crapshoot, I believe. But I don't see it not being able to do the job and what you purchased for. So yeah, pick it up. I feel like ZALMAN is a breath of fresh air into the CPU cooler segment of PC peripherals and parts, that they've just taken a very different approach to building a CPU cooler. So if you guys liked the video today, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs down. Go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe if you like what you're seeing here on the channel. You want to see more of it. I do have more reviews on coolers coming by, and I got some new test benches that I'm putting together. But you know, if you guys want to see something specific, or if there's something, got any questions, or something you want me to do, just go ahead and leave it down in the comments. And like always, guys, be awesome, be heavy. I'll see you on the next one.